We bought an old farmhouse in Connecticut. Of course, we liked old housing. We were fixing it up. And I was in town in New York having lunch with some friends, and I was walking down 6th Avenue, and Jack Rollins, who was somebody I had worked with before, he was a Nichols and May manager. So and Nichols and May were on many of the Parr shows. They were terrific. They just did such good work for us. And he stopped me and said, Hal, what do you, I said, Jack, what do you do? I thought you lived in Ireland. And I said, no, we just moved back. And we chatted for a while. And then he said, you know, it's funny that I just met you because I'm working at NBC. I have a young fellow who's just signed on with me, and we're doing a morning show for NBC, and they're looking for another director. You know, what are you doing? I mean, are you available? And I said, no, I don't want to work anymore. And I said, well, this fellow David Letterman, and that was the first time I heard that name.
And you had no idea who he was?
I had no idea who he was or what show we're talking about. And he said, well, it's the bad news is that it's probably going to be canceled, not in a week or two. The good news is that I met you, and would you like to do the show? I said, maybe we could talk Dave into hiring you to do the show. And I said, no, I said, I'm really happy where I am. And then I said, what kind of money are we talking about? And he gave me a figure, I think it was like $25,000. And just a couple of days before, I'd been out working outside, and I'd looking at the house. I said, what the house needs is a great big porch in the back. And I figured I would probably cost $20,000 to do that. And I thought of the show and the porch, the show and the porch, and I decided on the porch. I said, all right, let me, who do I have to talk to? He says, well, you should have a meeting with Dave. And said, are you going to be in town tomorrow? And I was staying overnight. I said, yeah, I'll be in. He said, well, why don't you just have a chat with Dave? I think you'll like him. So we met at Lindy's. It wasn't the original Lindy's. It was a Lindy's no longer there. It was at 30 Rock on 6th Avenue. And so I meet Jack and Dave, and we're having a sandwich. And when Dave comes in and sits next to Jack, and we have a conversation. And he said, "Oh, I hear you lived in Ireland." So I said, "Yeah." He said, "I always wanted to go there." We had this nice conversation. Didn't talk about the show at all. And then he said, "Well, what'd you do there?" And I said, "Well, we had this old house. We're fixing it up, and I did a lot of gardening, and putting tomatoes up in jars and making sauerkraut." And he said, "Sauerkraut? My father used to make sauerkraut." And so we ended up with a conversation all about preserving foods. And then at the end of it, he said, "Why don't you come in Monday and do the show?" And no talk about what the show was like or what it was about or what I had done in my life. So it was, I think we immediately liked each other. We just liked each other chatting about sauerkraut. And I see Jack Rollins wasn't that happy about making a commitment right away because the producer, he hadn't been talked to about it yet. Right. So I was still convinced I didn't want to work in television. Right. But the porch won that argument. I said, well, I won't have to dig into my income or my savings. I'll get this money. And I figured, well, it'd be fun because I hadn't been in New York very long, and it'd be a chance to catch up with my friends in New York, and this thing's not going to last. So